Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another one!
Oladipo!
Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three in.
He hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you on this Wednesday. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette with us. Brought to you, of course, by our good friends Andy Moore Honda, Bloomington's number one Honda dealer, and the Wild Club. Make sure you go to your app store and download the Wild Club and join, because Wild Club members earn exclusive discounts, dining dollars to spend, and more sent directly to your mobile phone. Welcome aboard, Dylan. How's it going, brother?
I'm good. We've started baseball here in Fort Wayne with the Fort Wayne Tin Caps, so I've been working on that and just getting spring ready here. Although it is 35 degrees here in Fort Wayne currently.
Yeah, looking forward to this 80-degree weather that is coming this weekend. This weather's been kind of wild. It's been a real roller coaster. Just a late start for spring, which I don't know if that is affecting sports much, just unless you're playing baseball. It kind of sucks, but it's just been a weird spring.
Yeah, it has. And I mean, Fort Wayne, we've had a lot of cancellations here for high school sports. There's been a lot of stuff that's been called off, and so there's hopefully get some better weather here coming up soon. The Tin Caps have already had two games they've had to play a doubleheader, so it's been a little bit difficult to get things going, but hopefully that gets going here soon.
Speaking of baseball, Indiana not having a very good season in the Big Ten. Man, they're like 13-20. So hopefully they can get that pulled together. Maybe a good weekend to go out and watch them play out at the Bart. You can have yourself a cold beer now out at the Bart. Watch a baseball game. And this weekend would definitely be a great one to do it with the weather the way it's going to be. But looking forward to talking to Rick Bozich later on, and Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star as well. And before I forget, everybody, hopefully thoughts and our wishes to our good friend Bob Kravitz, who is just recuperating, but is normally with us today, but he won't be. He's just recuperating from his medical procedure he went through. But our thoughts and prayers are with Bob, and hopefully we'll have him back next week. What we're talking about, Ross talking about the Medora Timberjacks. Do you know about this? Are you familiar with the basketball league?
I've heard. The only reason I know about the Medora Timberjacks now, I believe that's why Ross is talking about it, is because Maurice Creek's playing for them now. That's the only reason that I am aware of their existence. I had to look up who they were when he announced that yesterday.
I had to do the same. He's probably going to be on with us here in a day or so. But the basketball league is a semi-pro league that I was not aware of. 42 teams. I spoke with the GM, and I'll get him on as well. It's a great story, which I'm sure you'll be following up on once I tell you about this. I got to go back to all my notes, but there are 4 teams, like I said. One is out of Newcastle, and Kent Benson has some involvement with it. Kokomo has a team, and Lebanon has a team.
Okay.
So there's 3 of the teams are up closer to you, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, I knew nothing about this either. The GM of the team in Medora is Joey Sisting. Now, that name may not be familiar with you, but how about Jerry Sisting?
Yes.
Very, very well-known player, former player in the state of Indiana. Played at Purdue, played in the NBA, and he's a consultant to him. But yeah, they've got some connections. one of the coaches, let's see, I'm trying to remember everything. Oh, the Kokomo's coach is Cliff Livingston, I think.
Huh.
I mean, that's a former NBA player, folks. But yeah, this league is going on. 42 teams in this league, teams across Texas. I think they're just trying to get it going, but I think they're getting like 600 people a game in Medora. And I bet most of these teams are playing in high school gyms. Lebanon, of course, has a great gym. Anderson, so those are great facilities. But it's just kind of wild to me that thing was there and just flew completely under the radar.
How long have they been playing? Do we know? When was this league formed?
That's a good question. I don't know how long. Obviously, it couldn't be that long. But getting people like Maurice sure gives it some attention. But talking to Joey Sisting, they got guys coming in from, I think, from Lithuania, some 6'11" Lithuanian guy. I mean, I'm like, man, it's serious. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to hopefully maybe getting Joey and Maurice on a Friday. I know they have games this weekend, but it was wild just sitting there talking to him yesterday and finding out about all of that.
Yeah, apparently they started operating in 2018, and with 8 teams, and they have now expanded to, as you said, however many there are, 42 now.
42.
So this is a quickly growing operation here.
Yeah, they play Ross said that would be close to a sellout at Medora. They play at Medora High School, and their coach is Mark Morin, who is the brother or the son of the team owner, but he's also the head coach at Medora High School.
Okay.
So I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm looking forward to checking it out.
Yeah, good for Mo Creek that he is able to get back out there now after everything he's been through this year.
Yep, look forward to like I said, getting him and Joey on the show, talking more about this. This is a cool deal and finding out more about this league. Very interesting. Indiana this week, they've had a good week, as you are well aware of. We've been talking about that. Picking up 5-star Malik Renault to Indiana, adding to their roster now, filling them back out at 13 scholarships. But yet they are still talking to other people. Dexter Dennis was in yesterday, Dylan, and they're very in deep conversations with Sean McNeil. One thing I don't understand, Antoine Davis, Mike Davis's son, a prolific 3-point shooter. Purdue reached out to him. Kentucky's reached out to him. Indiana did not reach out to him. I wonder, and someone brought up a good point last night that I didn't think about, but I wonder if there is some loyalty to Bob Knight still there in play. I did not think about that until someone mentioned it. Possibly.
And
because he's exactly what you need. I mean, he is Sean McNeil.
Right.
Except for he has an Indiana background.
Yeah, I assume maybe they might have kicked the tires on that. Maybe he said he wasn't interested. I don't know. Maybe they've watched. Maybe Mike Woodson watched the film and decided he wanted Sean McNeil more. We'll never know. But yeah, it does seem like they've kind of closed in on Dennis and McNeil as the two guys that if they are going to go into the portal, as you said, they don't really need to at the moment just because they do have a full complement of scholarships, although that could change with Trace's decision and everything like that. But it does seem like those are the two guys they've zeroed in on that have McNeil for shooting and Dennis for kind of ball handling and defense.
But they can't when I say they can't have both, actually, there's no current room for either scholarship wise. Someone just asked, Jared, do I feel anyone else will leave outside of potentially Trace Jackson Davis? Well, someone would have to leave. The fact that they're still talking to people like they are without room tells me they're either, is this just a contingency plan if Trace Jackson Davis leaves? But I don't know that you can do that because his decision to pull to will not come until later. And I don't know that either of these guys are going to wait that long.
Yeah. It's possible that Trace has told them that he's leaning toward leaving and they're trying to get ready for a contingency plan. But I don't think you're going to be able to convince either of these guys to come. Although, unless you convince one of these guys and tell them, hey, we want you and we'll figure out the numbers later.
Yeah. We'll talk about that yesterday. Someone potentially moving down to a walk-on position.
Yeah, I kind of can't imagine that anyone from the current team would be willing to do that. They would probably enter the transfer portal if IU asked them to do that. I don't know who they would ask to do that. But
the first one that, if that were a case, Logan Duncombe comes to mind because that's someone that I think you can always replace out of the portal, especially that you're someone that you're waiting to develop. And I don't know, as we go into the next season, where's his minutes going to come from?
Yeah, I mean, to
me, his minutes just got less.
They did. The only thing I would say is that he is the only true center they have on the roster. Now,
but what good does that do? It doesn't do you much good if you don't have the experience to play that position.
That is true. And so that would be my guess is Logan Duncombe is the first one I would think of. But again, I think he would I think most college basketball players nowadays, maybe the IU has someone on the roster who's different and loves IU so much they would be willing to do this. I think most college basketball players nowadays would rather go from being playing somewhere else, would enter the portal rather than go be a walk-on. I mean, being a walk-on stuff, you have to pay your own way. College is expensive.
And redshirting, does it still count against the scholarship count?
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So I thought that's why redshirting doesn't really help the situation.
Right.
Hey, we've got plenty more coming up, man. Plenty more comments on the Andy Moore Honda hotline. Plenty more here on Indiana Sports Beat. Rick Bozich is coming along today. Looking forward to that. Kyle Neddenriep as well from the Indy Star. Appreciate you guys already being up and at it. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends at Southern Stone Restaurant, located at Patterson and Rogers in Bloomington. Southern food with Southern charm. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting Bloomington, holy mokey. What's going on up in your world?
I'm doing a lot of baseball right now. Tin Caps have just started, so they're in the first week of their season. Second week, they're on the road right now, I guess. So it's the second week of their season actually. But how
are the Tin Caps set up to be this year?
They are set up to be better than I have seen them since in my time here, so that's good.
And who's their affiliate? Is it Cleveland?
No, it's the Padres. So they are the
wow.
Yeah, they are the affiliate in all of minor league baseball that is furthest from their parent club.
That's so ridiculous.
Yeah. So there's what, 120 minor league teams now, I believe. Yeah, every single one of them is closer to their parent club than the Tin Caps.
We were talking one time about minor league teams. This is like a couple months ago. The funniest minor league teams, and I remember Jim was really fond of the name Macon Whoopee from Macon, Georgia.
Yeah.
How could you not? How do you not love that?
I actually did a story about this a couple of years ago. Is that teams have used this as kind of a like the rebrand with new names to kind of catch attention has been like a thing that teams have worked on doing in the last 10 years or so.
Yeah, Louisville, the Bats do it a decent amount. They sometimes become the Louisville Mashers to promote, alcohol stuff. That was a poor way of wording what they're actually promoting, but it's something that has to do with alcohol.
Okay. Gotcha.
And Bowling Green, they're normally the hot rods. I can't think of what they normally change theirs to. They have one, too, that they like to rotate in for promotional reasons.
Yeah, there's a lot. If you look up some of the team names nowadays, especially kind of in the South, has a lot of really good ones.
The Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp is a good one.
Oh yeah.
What league is the Tin Caps?
They're the Midwest League. It's high A.
Okay, so is that the second level from the bottom? I think
it is. It's third level from. No. It's. Let's see. Yeah, because they took
low
away,
A and then high
they took away. Yeah, there used to be several levels below low A, but they took those away in 2021.
All right, here we go.
Hey, this is John, the producer with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're now a part of the Rivals Network. TheHoosier.com is where you can find complete coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and plenty more. Simply go to TheHoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also find full episodes of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the homepage or on the station every week, Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by BB's Market in Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Wednesday. We've made it to the halfway point, brought to you by our good friends from BB's Marketplace, all a part of the WOW Network. Make sure you join the WOW Club. WOW Club members earn exclusive discounts and dining dollars. I can't talk anymore. Wow. Whoo. Thinking about BB's, all the steaks at BB's got my mouth watering and I couldn't speak anymore. Jordan Hulls had a season high 15 points yesterday. I was watching his game. I'm going to have this guy starts sending them to me, but you could have the link. You can watch his games and they're all during the day because of the time. It works out great. I was amazed at the crowd. They had a road game yesterday. And I was chatting with him afterwards. He had a season high 15 points, but wherever they were flying back, so they're far enough that they had to fly. But that place was packed wherever they were playing. I mean, they like their basketball over there, man. This place was packed, and it was not a high school gym either.
Yeah. Jordan Hulls has had a great professional career. I mean, he's going
tremendous.
On a decade in Europe now.
This is his 9th season, and last year was the best season ever. And again, he's having a great season this year. The team they're playing in two. It's weird. They play in two different leagues at the same time. It's kind of like the soccer stuff, the Premier and the Champions League.
Yeah,
they have two different leagues that they play in at the same time. Which is kind of odd. But there's that. The Final Four coming up in May for him. So looking forward to that. We'll keep following him because once he gets back, looking forward to working with him on the Never Lose Hoop golf outing that's coming up in June that I know some of you guys want to participate in. It is going to be a blast. There's going to be a ton of IU people there. It's only $125 a man, $500 a team total. Then there's also an option you can pay an extra $100 and get an VIP fifth man added to your team. So looking forward to that. There's the information up there. We'll put it up in other places as well, but that's not until June 23rd here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point, by the way. So looking forward to that. There'll be a ton of IU guys out there, and it should be fun. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to having Jordan on to talk about that as well. How about Thad Matta down at Butler? Dylan added Greg Oden to his staff. I did not see Greg Oden as a coach.
Well, he has been a coach with Ohio State for a little bit, kind of an assistant. And so Thad Matta also added, it's not only Greg Oden, it's also John Diebler, who you might remember playing for those Ohio State teams back in the day, one of the best shooters in the history of college basketball. And he just finished up his professional career as a player. So, yeah, the Thad Matta kind of getting the band back together at Ohio State, so to speak. I'm wondering if he will also add someone like Aaron Kraft to the team, someone like that. Yeah, he does seem like he is. He's putting together a staff. They've been active in the transfer portal. They actually are. They landed a kid from up here in Northeast Indiana, Ali, who was playing for Akron, led the Zips to the NCAA tournament, and is now going to Butler. So yeah, it's coming together for Thad Matta. And obviously IU wishes him the best just because he did, he was reintroduced to basketball through Indiana. It wasn't clear when or if he was ever going to coach again. It kind of seems like he got that itch to coach again because he saw he was around basketball at IU.
Think about the coaches now that are in at the schools in Indiana. Of course, you got Mike Woodson, Matt Painter, Mike Bray up at Notre Dame, longtime coach. You've got Thad Matta back at Butler, and you've got Michael Lewis at Ball State. It's a pretty exciting time coaching-wise. I know at one point you had Bob Knight, Gene Cady, and Rick Majerus. And I guess you would have had at Notre Dame, what's his name? I forgot. The former Notre Dame coach.
Digger Phelps.
Those four guys were going at the same time. And I don't know who was that Butler. That was pretty good. That was a pretty good group good. Right there.
Yeah.
Pretty good right there. So this group would be second to that group, no doubt. But this is a pretty good group of coaches.
Yeah, and they're all. I mean, Mike Woodson and Matt Painter seem like they could be around for a little bit. Obviously, they split.
Matt Painter has been already.
Matt Painter is the second longest tenured coach in the Big Ten. That kind of snuck up on people. He was always, when he got to Purdue, he was the fresh-faced youngster. And he has been at Purdue now for 17 seasons. And since taking over for Gene Cady, Purdue has had two coaches in 42 years here. So yeah, they have had more stability than essentially anyone in college basketball. And no Final Fours, which Purdue fans are getting very antsy about, if my mentions on Twitter are any indication. But
shouldn't they be used? They should be used to that, really. I mean, they've only had two Final Fours in the entire history of their basketball program. The last one came in 1980.
Yes, and they are very disappointed, and especially this season. This season was tough for them because you saw what happened was they played. Not to go on a Purdue tangent here, but I did cover Purdue, so I know this intimately. They started the season 8-0. And they looked like the best team in the country. They rose to number one. They beat North Carolina. They beat Villanova, two teams that ended up making the Final Four. And they just weren't quite as good after that. They didn't shoot quite as well after that. They just weren't quite as cohesive. They had some good games, obviously, but they just never reached that level that they reached at the very beginning of the season. And then, of course, they lost in the Sweet 16 to St. Peter's. They didn't win the Big Ten title. They didn't win the Big Ten tournament title. They didn't make the Final Four. And now Jaden Ivey's gone for the NBA. So it's it was a tough season for Purdue, I think, and one that could have been so spectacular turned out to be pretty good. And I think that's a little bit of a letdown.
And now you go, what are they looking like next year right now? We talk about Indiana a lot, and there's no way we still don't know, other than Indiana is in a great position already. Indiana can only get better. I don't know where Purdue is. I know that they're losing their big guys.
Well, that's the thing. So Zach Edey was a sophomore this year. He still has 3 years of eligibility left. He has not announced one way or the other whether he's coming back, whether he's entering the NBA. He has not announced anything since the end of the season. The assumption is that he'll be back at least. They do have Mason Gillis will also be back. He's a multi-year starter for them now. And then they had some depth on the bench. They have Caleb First up here from Fort Wayne, Trey Kaufman-Renn, redshirted last year. He'll be playing this season. They're bringing in Indiana Mr. Basketball, Braden Smith, Gatorade Indiana Player of the Year, Fletcher Lawyer from up here in Fort Wayne. So they have some talent. Brandon Newman, high-scoring guard, coming back. Really a lot of experience already. They might have Eric Hunter coming back, who was all Big Ten all defense this year. He has 1 year of eligibility left, is testing the NBA waters, so we'll see about that. And then they are, as we've talked about on this show previously, they are chasing Nigel Pack, one of the best transfers in the portal. And he's an Indianapolis kid, visited Purdue already, averaged 19 points a game at Kansas State last year. So if they get him and bring Edey back, that's the foundation of a very good team. Might not be quite as explosive as it was last year, but there's the foundation of a Big Ten title contender there.
And the one thing that we've been talking about here of late is the Big Ten's inability to perform in the NCAA tournament outside of the conference. And I sit here and listen to you talk about Purdue, and on one hand, that I hear half of the problem, the Zach Edey part, that just does not work anymore. Dragging this big guy around, big lumbering guy, doesn't work. You've got to be quicker and more guard reliant, but they have pieces to do that as well. They've got a lot of guards, a lot of shooters. I mean, the guys that you just mentioned that are coming in are Grace Braden is a tremendous shooter, but they've got other guys there that can shoot as well. So I don't know. They've got to get away from that Purdue way, that Purdue offense, because it's just, while it might work in the conference, and it has worked in the conference, it does not work outside of the conference.
Right. So that is the conundrum for Purdue, and I believe for a lot of the Big Ten, is that you can win a lot of games doing what Purdue does. That they have established a brand of, we are going to get the elite 7-foot big man in here, and we are going to let him go to work. And that has worked extremely well. It's won them conference titles in 2017, in 2019. It helped get them to an Elite Eight in 2019. And although the biggest part of that was Carson Edwards losing his mind, but it has worked to win Big Ten championships throughout Matt Painter's tenure. He's won 4 of them now, and I believe 4. I might be wrong about that, but they've won a ton of games in the regular season. They are one of only 3 teams that has been a top 5 seed in the NCAA tournament 6 years in a row. It's them and Kansas. It's just 2 teams. Sorry, it's them and Kansas. So it's hard to tell someone like Purdue, hey, you need to change what you're doing because it's not working, because it is working. You get in the tournament, and then the tournament is kind of a crapshoot, or it's supposed to be, right? We've been told for years, you get in the tournament and anything can happen. Well, for the Big Ten, everything hasn't happened, right?
Nothing has happened.
Right. So, and they've had these years where it's like, well, they're just not quite as good as they were during the regular season. And it's baffling to me. And I apologize for going on a tangent, but this is something that I've been turning over in my mind for a long time now. It's baffling to me why they can't win in the tournament, because we talk about every year, the Big Ten's so good, the Big Ten's so good. Well, why do we say that? Because they win a whole bunch of games in the non-conference schedule. The reason everyone says the Big Ten is so good every year is because in the non-conference season, they go out and beat a bunch of good teams. Purdue beat North Carolina in the non-conference this year. Purdue beat Villanova in the non-conference this year, and they look dang good doing it. And why that doesn't translate to tournament wins is baffling to me. because it's not like every Big Ten team plays the same style. A lot of Big Ten teams play a similar style where they're set up to be physical, because that is how, kind of rough and tumble style, because that is how the Big Ten referees. And I do think refereeing is an issue for the Big Ten. It needs to change because the refereeing is just awful. But beyond that, like Iowa and Purdue play so wildly different styles, but both teams have had trouble in the NCAA tournament. So the style to me is an issue, but it's more about talent. I mean, Purdue had Jaden Ivey this year. That should have been enough to get them over the hump, at least the Elite Eight against St. Peter's. There was no reason they should have lost that game to St. Peter's. They were the better team. They let it get away. That's on them, but you can kind of count that as a one-off, right? Although it did happen against North Texas as well last year. But big picture, I wrote this earlier in the week, and I'm sure you've seen it elsewhere. Indiana has more 5-star players committed now in the 2022 class than the rest of the Big Ten combined.
Yeah.
That's not good for, like, it's great for IU. Mike Woodson has turned IU into a destination again, and we can talk about that some more. I'm sure you did on the show yesterday because it's a huge deal. But that's not good for the Big Ten. It's just not. You need to have good players to win championships. And the Big Ten has good players, don't get me wrong. Kofi Cockburn this afternoon he announced that at 3:00 he's deciding whether he's going to come back. He averaged 22 and 12 this year. If he comes back, he's going to be one of the favorites for Player of the Year next season in the entire country. So they have good players. They have plenty of talent. Michigan has 4 top 100 recruits coming in this year. But it's the high-level talent, right? And there just hasn't been quite as much of that in the Big Ten recently.
I agree. Kofi, we've talked about this in the last couple of days, like when Mike DeCourcy was on. Kofi Cockburn, Oscar Tshiebwe, Bako from North Carolina.
Yeah.
If all 3 of those guys come back, that's going to be unbelievable, because that would have never happened in any other year, ever.
No.
But things have changed. The COVID year has changed. There are more people. It's going to take a long time to cycle through this COVID year, this extra year. It affects everything. It affects the draft. It affects rosters. Obviously, you add the transfer portal into that. So there's just a ton there. And you mentioned, and we'll talk about this in the next segment, or our next open segment, making it a destination again, because that's a great topic. But Indiana, by saying it's not good for the Big Ten, I think it is. I disagree, only because I think it's great for the Big Ten for Indiana to be good.
Yes.
I think it is necessary. I mean, it's not critical, but I talked about this very thing yesterday. The ACC has had North Carolina and Duke, who have always been their bell cow programs. They're just always there. Kansas is that for the Big 12. UCLA is that for the Pac-12. Kentucky has been that for the SEC. The Big Ten has not had that. Michigan State had a run, but it's too hard to stay 1, 2, 3. And as was pointed out, part of that's because there's a lot more parity in the Big Ten, but there is not that elite team. They have not had that elite program, and it should have been Indiana. Let's be fair. I blame Indiana for not being that bell cow program, because they should have been the whole time. But getting back to that, I think it's actually good for the Big Ten, because I think the Big Ten will then also, it's like the saying, it raises the tide. You raise the tide, you raise everything around you. And I think that it will raise the other teams. I think Michigan will be right there with them right off the bat. They're not going to miss a beat recruiting wise, because you've got Juwan Howard there, who's probably already going towards a more pro style anyway. And eventually, I think that's what you're going to see in the Big Ten. You mentioned Iowa. Iowa's kind of like that, except for they don't play defense. That's why Iowa has a problem. It's great to score. That's like the Tom Crean method. of trying to beat people 93-88.
Yeah.
Well, you still got to play defense, man. But Mike Woodson is a defensively foundation is on defense, which to me, that's tremendous, because then when you have a foundational defense and you add offense to that is a dangerous, that's a dangerous team right there to me, because that is just a team that is built from the foundation up.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, it's something, I mean, a lot of Big Ten teams are built around defense. I think it's going to be Mike Woodson's task is going to be building a team around defense, but also having a dynamic offense. I think we started to see where that can go, or what he wants that to look like at the end of the season this year with X and Trace running that pick and roll. And so that, I mean, that's kind of what he wants, is for a team to lock down on defense like IU did this year, run the pick and roll on offense, kick out to shooters when the pick and roll isn't there. And the only thing missing from that right now for IU, as we've seen for the last 5 years, is shooters. Find a shooter, and IU comes together. And so that's what they're hoping Sean McNeil might be. That's what they're hoping some other guys that they already have on the roster might be. And if they find it, that's the key to unlocking the whole thing.
Absolutely. Hey, we got plenty more coming up. John, is Kyle up next?
Yep.
Kyle Neddenriep from Indy Star is going to join us next. We're brought to you by BB's Marketplace right here in Bloomington, a place you can get some great fine steaks. You can order online and have them sent to you, just like that place out in Nebraska. And you can do it through the WOW Network with your WOW Club and get some dining discounts for that as well. Plenty more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and we're back with it right after this to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting Bloomington or...
Hey, I don't know if you saw the comments I was putting up, but Kofi just announced that he's not coming back.
Yes, he said yesterday. He said yesterday on Twitter that he was making his announcement tomorrow. So I wasn't sure when today that would be, but yeah, apparently as we were talking about it, he made the announcement like within the last 10 minutes or so.
What an odd time to do it in this early in the morning.
Right. I am also shocked, quite frankly, that he announced, "Hey, I'm making an announcement." I am shocked that he is leaving after saying that. I assumed when he said I'm making an announcement that
why draw attention to it? The fans won't be happy if you're leaving. That's a good point.
I thought that meant he was coming back, but yeah, I mean, he averaged 22 and 12 this year. There's not a whole lot else he can prove in college. If he's not going to get drafted now, he never was going to. So
yeah, I wonder if that will have any sort of outside influence on Trace's decision to stay in the draft or not.
I don't know. Yeah, that's a good question. I kind of doubt it. Trace seems like he's going to make a call for Trace, but it's interesting whether he looks at that and says, "Hey, if Kofi's leaving, why am I sticking around?" You know?
Yeah.
Hey, Kyle.
Morning, Kyle.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Oh, how are you doing, brother?
So, what did Kofi say? I missed that.
Kofi's gone. He's leaving for the NBA. He announced it like 10 minutes ago.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, I wonder if they'll pronounce his name correctly in the NBA at least.
Yeah.
Is he leaving the possibility open of coming back, or?
Doesn't sound like it.
He said he's hiring an agent and he's out of there.
Yeah.
Once you hire an agent, you're done.
Not true. Not true.
No?
Not technically true, but he is saying that he is gone.
Okay, I see it here now.
You used to be able to not hire an agent. Now you can. But it's I don't know.
Hiring an agent has become, even though you can technically, it's become shorthand for I'm leaving and not coming
manager.
back.
Yeah, because
here we go.
We're supposed to just Honda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. On this Wednesday, we've made it to the halfway point, brought to you by our good friends at Remax Realty. If you're in the home market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore and her 2 decades of experience. It could be the difference between you getting the home you want and not. Reach out to her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. We welcome in Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star now. How are you, sir?
Hey, good morning, guys. How are you?
Good, good. Dylan Sinn with me from up in Fort Wayne, Journal-Gazette.
How are you, Kyle? Thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks, guys.
Let's see. What did I see? 8-man football. Probably strange to most people in Indiana, but when I was in school at IU, one of my roommates, Jim Sams, who played football at Indiana, had come from Iowa. Although Jim was 6'2", 245, he played, I think he came from Union, Iowa. And I'm going to look up while we're talking the population of Union, Iowa. But I think that his school had a total of 100 kids, maybe. Mm-hmm. So they played, I guess it was an 8-man football, I guess, probably. Is that the only variation is 8-man?
No, I mean, there's the majority of non-11-man is 8-man, but there is, like in the Dakotas, they have 9-man is fairly popular, and then 6-man in parts of really Texas is kind of the main 6-man area, but Nebraska, Kansas, there's a few other states who have 6-man too. I'd have to look at the map of it, but 8-man's kind of the predominant. If you're playing non-11-man. Ordinary football, I guess people would say, you're probably playing 8-man football. And, I grew up around the game as well, so it's not unusual to me. I know it's kind of a foreign concept. Like you said, Jim, it's here in Indiana, it's not something we're used to, but, and I think there's multiple reasons for that, but I think probably, there is a history of it. If I haven't talked to Bud Wright personally, but the longtime coach at Sheridan, he remembers, from talking to other people about it, he's brought it up, but he remembers 8-man. There was little pockets of Indiana. Evansville area had a league that had 8-man football for a while, like back in the 40s and 50s. There was Northwest Indiana had a little pocket of 8-man football for a while too. Even in Indianapolis, there was 6-man football. A lot of the programs kind of starting football in the early 40s, late 30s, early 40s, they played 6-man for a while, probably only, a handful of years, but, schools like Beech Grove and I'd have Speedway, there's several that actually played 6-man for a little bit of time before transitioning to 11-man. So it is a little bit of a foreign concept, but I think what's going to happen here, you're going to see a handful of programs. They're basically starting it with new programs. And, like Blackhawk Christian's going to start playing 8-man. Waldron. There's a few others who haven't totally committed yet, but probably will. And then I think what you'll see is some of the 11-man programs that are losing numbers or, struggling with numbers will probably go down to 8-man is what I would think. That's kind of conjecture, but I think that's most likely what will happen. And then, you may have some programs fluctuate between the two, not in the same year, but, you may, see a school. I don't know how they'll do that exactly, but maybe you have to say what you're going to do in advance, but, maybe fluctuate and go down, up and down, depending on their numbers. But it's really, I think a good opportunity for schools who are considering football that may, Greenwood Christian's another one. They're actually in the process of hiring a football coach, and then, they may go, they could go either way at this point. I think they want to play 11-man in the long run, but they may start as an 8-man program because they're teaching kids how to play football for the first time who haven't played it before. So, there's a lot of schools like that. None of them really have facilities at this point. So probably this pilot season is going to be playing on different fields and, meeting each other halfway. It's going to be kind of a, kind of a pilot season. It's going to be not a real season necessarily, but maybe you play 5 or 6 games at the most, and then practice and kind of get ready for building your program in the future. But I in the Midwest, it's a common game, and in Illinois, we've seen they've had more 8-man programs. Michigan has quite a few. Ohio doesn't have that many, but they have a handful. And then, like you said, Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas out there, and those, there's a reason too, because a lot of these schools here in Indiana are consolidated schools now. There's not so many like really small schools anymore, like there is out in Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, places that have 8-man football that they almost can't even possibly even have 11 players on on their team. So they've gone down to play 6-man and 8-man. That's why they have a lot more smaller schools still. And we don't have that as much here in Indiana anymore. It's very much the schools have been consolidated going back to the 50s and 60s. So that's part of the reason too. But I think it's a good idea. I think I think the idea basically is to give more kids opportunities to play football, and more schools the opportunity to start a football program. So if you can get enough teams to play, say you get 10, 12 this first year, I think that'd be a good start.
Absolutely, because starting a football program is unlike any other sport. The amount of players, first of all, it has more other than soccer, which is the same, but the equipment that each player has to have that makes that difficult and for some schools, especially the smaller ones. And then you talk about the numbers. I was talking about my former roommate Jim Sams. I looked up Union, Iowa. The population is 380.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where he went to school. He went to school with a place that has a population of 380 people, 400 people. But yet he ended up playing JUCO football, and then from JUCO football he played at Indiana. So, and I think this could be kind of fun, kind of on the scale of arena football, faster, a little fast action. Are the rules the exact same?
It's basically, and they don't know yet if there's going to be 80-yard or 100-yard fields. I talked to Bob Gaddis about that, and they haven't solidified all the rules. A lot of states will go 80-yard fields. The field is narrower. I think it's 40 yards. And what they will do on these normal fields is kind of put up temporary sidelines. Whether just like a paint, like kind of like you do for baseball, where you put down a chalk line or whatever. You'll have cones and whatever. It'll look like kind of a temporary sideline, basically, is what it is. And then you could easily do the 80-yard field the same way if that's what you do on a 100-yard field. You set it up that way. So that is normally, so it's 80-yard field. It's like you said, a lot more scoring. You'll see the scores sometimes get lopsided, but a lot of times it's 50 to 50s and 60s. You're in the into that neighborhood as far as points go, and there are more players eligible to catch passes, but a lot of the from what I've seen covering it way back, it's more of a run based. There are teams who throw it, but it is kind of a wide open running game more, and it's just harder for the defense with less players out there and more offensive players eligible to handle the ball. So it's a unique, if you have a couple skill guys who are fast, man, you're off and running. You don't have to have big, massive offensive lines and things like that, which you're not going to have anyway at that level of football. So, it is a unique game. But it's also at its base, it's just football. There's not a whole lot of strange things, but 6-man is kind of where it gets a little bit even weird, because it just looks weird, 6 guys on each side. But it is football. There's some different things to it, but at its core, it is just football.
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, Jim.
No, go ahead.
I guess my question is, so a lot of these teams you talked about, well, they want to play 11-man eventually, but they might start with 8-man. How much of it are these teams going to be, we're going to start an 8-man program and then try to move up at some point later on once we get people interested in it? Or is it mostly going to be teams are going to play 8 and stick at 8? Do you think?
I think it's a combination. I don't know what that looks like. And even talking to some of the programs that are considering it, they don't know yet, like, are we in for this year? Or there's some who just want to wait. They kind of want to wait till next year and see how the first year goes. And then some schools like, I think Waldron, said this is, we want to get in on the ground floor and get started. I got the sense they really want to play 8-man. They want to be an 8-man program, for the duration. Now, the one thing that, I think could change that, Dylan, would be how many teams in our area are going to play 8-man, and then you're talking about not only the cost of starting a program with equipment and all that, but, the travel costs of going to play a full schedule. Are you going to have to go around the state to play games? Are you having to meet somewhere? And that they pretty much know the first year they're going to have to, kind of maybe even play jamboree style some of these games. It's just going to be, that's going to be what it is. But in the future, looking forward, it's like how many schools are playing 8-man. I do think it'll become more popular because I do think there's a handful of schools out there that will want to. Maybe they can't compete at the 1A level and 11-man. They just don't have the numbers. I know I'm not going to say their names, because, to out them, but I think there are a couple who are in that boat who would probably consider going to 8-man just for competitive purposes, just who haven't had the numbers. But I don't know that for sure. But I do think that will happen. And then you'll have probably a strong core of teams who want to play 8-man moving forward. It's kind of the weirdness of it right now because people don't know what it is. People around here, it's like a foreign language, really. And I think when they had the IFCA meeting, they brought in these coaches from other states to kind of explain what it was. And I think that helped, kind of show them what the game looked like, what the hurdles will be. And I think in the future, that's only going to, the familiarity of the game, I think obviously will help, moving forward. Now, the one thing I do wonder about is like, how are you going to do the cutoff? If a school wants to go down to 8-man, are you going to make them be under a certain amount of enrollment or how, and I don't think that would happen where schools would just try to, chase trophies and, because I think the majority of those schools are going to want to play 11-man anyway, if you have those numbers. But I would be curious to know if there's going to be a cutoff on how big your school can be to have 8-man football. That would be one of my questions. That's probably a question for later, but I would be curious about that.
Men's basketball race already being talked about, I saw, for 2023, for just not a month away from having announced the 2022 Mr. Basketball. But hey, it's never too early, right? Everyone has their way too early lists, and we've got this one out now. And who's heading that up?
Well, it's probably just largely, I would say, just kind of throwing some names out at this point that normally I do that kind of right after Mr. Basketball's announced. This year I got caught up in doing some other stuff, so it's a little late coming out. But, I would say at this point, you're probably talking about a lot of the guys who are on the junior all-star team. To be honest with you, this is like one of those things too, where how many of these guys are going to be back? Are they going to go to prep school? So we don't know the answers to that until, really the season starts. But, I would say, there's a handful. I think to me, Logan Imes was kind of on the track to put his name at the front of that list early in the season as a junior, and then got injured and he had an ankle injury, not anything too serious, but did keep him out for a while. And Zionsville kind of, they stumbled a bit down the stretch of the season. He didn't close out and have a great sectional, I would say, from what he was hoping to have. They didn't play very well, got beat the first round. But, he's going to Penn State. I think he's a guy that, from a guard skill perspective, he's probably one of the names out there, I would say, that has a good shot at it. I would say there's a handful of other guys like Xavier Booker, Joey Hart at Linton Stockton, Miles Colvin at Heritage Christian, Marcus Burton at Penn. Those are a few of the guys I would say you have a chance to be in that mix. And then you could go down the list, I think, of some of the other guys who, are on the junior all-star team. Amir Carson wasn't from Anderson, but I think he had a great season. I think he's got a chance. Zane Doty from Ben Davis. JQ Roberts of Bloomington North. They made it all the way to the semi-state last year in 4A. So there's quite a few names out there. If I had to handicap it, I think Booker's got a lot of momentum right now. Honestly, I think the Marcus Burton kid from Penn is a really good player, sort of underrated. I think he's got a chance. And then, from the southern part of the state, I think Joey Hart has done a lot to kind of put his name out there as well. So, there's quite a few guys I think at this point who have a good opportunity. I think it's kind of wide open at this point. And like I said, there's still obviously some things to be worked out with who's actually coming back next year too.
It's a pretty healthy list already, Dylan. It just when you think, as soon as you think it's going to be easy, it's like, wow, he just rattled off a ton of guys that have a legit shot. I'm like, damn. Every year it's like, okay, well, next year's class can't be as good as this class. And Indiana basketball just does not disappoint. It's just crazy that year after year they're able to produce this amount of talent and from a state this size. But when people, if they don't understand it is truly a basketball state, then they're misunderstanding it. And I know a lot of other people think, oh, Kentucky thinks that they're one. They are at the collegiate level because they've had success at Kentucky and some at Louisville, but not like the high schools. That's not the high schools. It doesn't compare to Indiana, which is nuts. We all know that. But it also amazes me, Kyle, that in this day and age where everything is getting diluted diluted down, Indiana high school basketball is pretty damn strong still. Even though they've tried to hurt it with the class system, it's still about as resilient as anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's and I would say too, just in reference to that class, it's a really deep class, and there's just even beyond those names I listed, you can go. It's one of the deeper classes, I think, and that it was the 2021 class was very deep too, and it had a lot of high end talent as well. 2022 not quite as deep, but very good class. 2023, I think, and you just go through names of guys who could be all-stars, could be not even all conference players who could, that I really like during the season. I mean, that class is loaded with a lot of really good talent. And I don't know, 2024, I don't believe will be quite as deep, but there is some good high-end talent, but we can talk about that another day. But yeah, I really like that 2023 class, as far as and I think they're going to give the seniors a good run in that game, the junior versus seniors game. I think that's going to be a tough game for the seniors, and in part because Fletcher Lawyer is not going to be part of it. But, I think that will be a really good battle between those teams. And like I said, even the kids not on that junior team, very good group of just the class as a whole.
What's up next for you?
I've got some, let's see. I've got actually a Xavier Booker story I'm working on for Friday. Went out and talked with him and his family this week, and not just a recruiting story, but just kind of about the person and the family. And, so that'll be coming out here. And then the EYBL's coming here. That's why I was trying to get that done before the EYBL comes here this weekend. Probably get out and see some of that on Friday night at least and part of the weekend. But yeah, got that and, miscellaneous other coaching moves. And, seems like this is the time for coaching changes a lot of times. So kind of on alert for, Jack Kiefer stepped down last week. Todd Howard up here at Brebeuf stepped down yesterday.
Todd Sturgeon at Floyd Central.
Todd Sturgeon, yeah. So a lot of coaches, this is kind of the time of year for that, even into May.
Big programs too. All those big programs. So there's some big jobs open.
Yeah. Yeah, and then kind of creates the domino effect depending on who gets those jobs. So then,
great question though. Is there a front runner for Lawrence North? Is there a longtime assistant that is expected to step into that, or is that just going to be an open candidacy?
It'll be open. They do have a couple guys on staff. One who I talked to who may be interested. Another one who I think will be, but doesn't have any varsity the head coaching experience. He coached the JV team, but and his name's Sean Howard. He went to Lawrence North, played there, but he's a little bit younger. So I think they'll have coaches who are maybe even have state championships under their belt who would be interested in that job. So it's interesting because Jack's the only coach they've ever had. So it's kind of, I don't know what the perception of that job is like from the outside. If you'd want to follow him or, I don't know. It's hard to know because it hasn't happened before. That job hasn't been open. So, it's I think it's probably one of the better jobs around, I would think, but you're also following someone who's done, been there for the duration of the school for 46 years. So it's a big shoes to fill.
Yeah, and Floyd Central now also a very good job. Todd Sturgeon brought that back to being the job that it was back in the Joe Hinton era for the Highlanders. So there's big school down in the southern Indiana, down there around New Albany and Jeffersonville and that mix. So there's a great job that's open now as well.
Yeah, I mean that one. I don't know if the number will be quite as high as it's been or not. I mean, it's hard to know just yet what the overall landscape will be, and that could depend too on what kind of a pool of candidates you get, is how many jobs are out there, and how many are filled by other schools. So you never know. I mean, it's interesting to me how many. I think 12 of the 16 teams that are part of the Marion County Association have switched since 2018, which that sounds like a lot to me. So I don't know if you can pinpoint any one reason or not, but there's been a lot of turnover as far as our coaches here go.
Kyle, appreciate you, brother, as always.
Hey, no problem. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Dylan.
Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate it.
Indy Star,
we'll
make sure you give him a follow. We're back with more, brought to you by our good friends from Remax Realty. If you're in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore and her 2 decades of experience. Could be the difference in not between you getting the home you want. Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com will get that done for you. We got more coming up here at Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and we're back with it right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore Honda.
So yeah, we can talk about Kofi leaving.
Kofi Cockburn.
Yes, sir.
I think we should start calling him by his. There's no way that name is pronounced Cockburn. What language is it written in?
That's funny.
Yeah, it'd be funny. I'm sure somebody along their line decided they were tired of getting made fun of, and they're like, you know what, we're changing this pronunciation.
But he's enough of that.
Yeah.
Like that would be absolutely my guess, John. Heck, it might have been Kofi himself.
You never know.
Interesting development here that might or might not affect IU. Jalen Llewellyn, who was Princeton's leading scorer the last couple of years, 2-time All-Ivy. He was committed to Clemson as a transfer. He just rescinded his commitment to Clemson. I know that Dexter Dennis is also visiting Clemson.
Interesting.
I don't know if there's some tea leaves to be read there, or if that opens up a spot for Dennis that they didn't have before at Clemson. But that's something that might be interesting.
I don't understand the desire to have Dexter Dennis at Indiana.
Woodson wants a lockdown defensive guard to put next to, or wing, I guess, to put next to Xavier Johnson, Hood-Schifino, I think.
Start next year, because really, who are you going to start at 2 guard if you don't?
They're thinking it's going to be Johnson, but I think they want insurance in case Hood-Schifino isn't ready, and then otherwise you get a Rob Finney type.
But Hood-Schifino is a 2. This Dennis is like a 3.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. That's my guess would be, by the way, that you're talking about who's going to be asked to redshirt and who would not redshirt, who would be asked to become a walk-on and they would transfer instead. My guess would be Miller Kopp, quite frankly.
Yeah, because that would be, but see, they're not going to take his scholarship away.
They're not.
He's not going to relinquish it.
Yeah. So
he's going to get that degree because he knows after last season who the hell wants him. Somebody else is not going to take him. He's not desirable.
Here we go.
Max Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indyhomepros.com. This segment is brought to you by K-Bello. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you on this Wednesday Hump Day, brought to you by our good friends at Cabello Restaurante in Bloomington on the Square, former Grazie location. Incredible Italian fare, fine drinks. It's amazing and easy to get to, and probably the best parking on the Square. It's always, for whatever reason, that north side of the Square seems to be the least parked on spot. So there's that. You can also make sure you have your Wow Club membership, because Wow Club members earn exclusive discounts and dining dollars to spend and more sent directly to their mobile phone, especially when you go to places like Cabello. Welcome back. Dylan Sinn here with me from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. Dylan, how's baseball been up? You cover those 10 caps. I can't imagine those Fort Wayne days right now. It's not exactly balmy.
It is not. They've had 2 games rained out this season already. One of them was partially snowed out because there was some snow going on. So they've had to play 2 doubleheaders already. They played last week in Fort Wayne. There were some sunny days that were also about 45 degrees at first pitch. One day was 38 degrees at first pitch, even though it was sunny. So it's a little bit difficult to play baseball in those conditions. There was some high winds as well. We've gotten kind of everything up here in Fort Wayne, but the Tin Caps look good. They are 6-4. They've started off the season extremely strong. And they seem like they have a very good offense. They have some great pitching. It could be a very fun season here in Fort Wayne unless these guys start getting promoted en masse. So I'm looking forward to covering that this spring this summer. Hopefully the weather turns here pretty soon.
Yeah, when I was in 7th grade, we didn't have school baseball. I had to wait till summer. So and my English teacher was the baseball coach. So, and I was an athlete. And so somehow I ended up being the manager for the varsity baseball team when I was in 7th grade. And I remember spring training, whatever the hell you want to call it. We were down at Georgetown Park where I grew up down in Southern Indiana, but had to use these were plastic baseballs and a little heavier than a regular baseball too because of the weather. Man, I got hit in the head with one of those one time. Somebody threw it and it kind of got away and I never saw it come and hit me. Oh my God, I thought I was going to get – so that's what's wrong with me, people, if you ever wonder. But I remember the coach I'd got hit pretty hard and they're like, all right, how many fingers? He was asking me how many fingers was he holding up. I didn't know what he said, and I just reached out and touched him. So he probably thought I was nuts at that point. But, yeah, spring baseball, not fun unless you get to go south. Which
is why it's so hard to build a competitive baseball team in the Midwest, right? In college anyway. Because if you're looking at an elite baseball recruit who is not going to the draft, why would you ever go to a school in the Midwest unless obviously there are some great facilities in the Midwest. There are great coaches. There are great competition to play. But man, half your season, the games start in February. Half your season is going to be played in freezing cold weather.
Yeah, that's a challenge. Baseball's kind of funny. It starts like that Well, not for the major league teams because they all get to go to Florida or Arizona. But baseball ends when it ends, baby. It's cold. You think about October. You think about the playoffs, the breath, the guys, and it changes the game. But it's always fun. So
yeah, and it kind of goes. Basically, you talk about you start the season. It's cold. You get into the meat of the season is played in the best weather imaginable. It's hot. It's fun to be out on the field. It's fun for fans to be in the stands. But yeah, it's by the end of the season, it is freezing again.
Yeah, I've knocked myself silly more ways than one. I got knocked out. I did get knocked out on a saddle bronc horse once for boom, landing on the back of my head and just that's another thing. When I opened my eyes, there was like 10 people standing around me asking, what day is it? And I'm like, man, it took me a minute just to realize where I was. If you've never been knocked out, that was truly knocked out. It was wild to open your eyes and have that many people just gathered around and out of nowhere, like what the hell just happened? So fun stuff. But yeah, man, destination. Indiana is Indiana becoming a destination yet? I don't think that it is yet, because what has happened is not because it's a destination. It's because it used to be a destination. But do not kid yourself that Hoosiers for Good is not an invaluable asset to landing these guys. Now, they did have Jalen Hood-Schifino prior to that, but he will benefit, I assure you. But landing a Malik Renaud, I think I would bet that was 50% of it, if not maybe, or 40% at the worst, a very high number of the importance of landing him, because he'd already said he didn't want to go play where it was cold.
Yeah, no, it would not surprise me. And that's the thing is I use, I mean, every team is trying to set one of these up, right? They're trying to get these things going. And IU has been they've been in kind of all across the athletic department has tried to be on the cutting edge of some of those things. And I think we're kind of seeing that come to fruition now. There's always other steps you can take, and some schools have really gone whole hog into it in some ways that are probably a little bit not exactly what the NCAA had in mind. But yeah, I mean, that IU has tried to be on the cutting edge of this. And I think you're starting to see it pay off now.
Yep. And so I think that Indiana is going to quickly become that destination school again. I mean, pretty quickly. And I've long said this. When people say that Indiana is not a blue blood, that's coming from someone who doesn't know what they're talking about. You don't not become a blue blood. Indiana established this over a long period of time. If 50 years from now, this didn't change. Yeah, you'd say, they used to be a blue blood. But they've been to the Final Four and they're on the precipice again. So I think that is exactly where they're headed again. Let's take a quick break. Up next, our good friend Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. Looking forward to talking to him. We'll be back with more here on Indiana Sports Beat, brought to you by our good friends at Cabello Restaurant on the Square in Bloomington. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting Bloomington. Hello, Mr. Rick.
What's up, gentlemen?
Man, I saw someone wearing a White Sox hat. Oh, it was on Saturday Night Live. I think on the after part of the show, and it was the colors were wild. But I'm like, well, that's a Sox hat, though. Damn it, I can't remember what it was. But it really jumped out at me.
Last week?
Yeah, I think it was last week's show. I'll have to go back and look.
I'll have to go back and look. See what were the colors?
I can't remember. It seemed like it was like a red and white or something.
Yeah, they wore red hats like in the early 70s.
Man, if I think the Sox, all I can think about is Carlton Fisk, 72. But I wish, and this is so dumb, I had a brick from the facade when they tore Comiskey down. I just walked over and grabbed one because I was working for CBS Sports doing Major League games, and then we were working the very first game at the new Comiskey Park, and they had it all fenced off, and I just walked over and grabbed one. It was from the front. It had paint on it, and I kept it for a long time, and finally I'm like, what the hell am I dragging a brick around for? And just finally stopped. I'm so dumb.
Should have kept it. Give it to Jeff Kegg. He's a big Sox fan too.
I regret it. I remember I got to see Cecil Fielder play. They were playing the Tigers in that opening series. That was which was pretty cool. Got to eat in the restaurant out in right field. CBS fed us up there. Wow. But yeah, it was wild. I saw Michael Jordan take batting practice at the old Comiskey Park when he was in that doing his baseball thing.
He was fashioned himself quite the baseball player.
With my friend Pete. Pete Clausen was there.
What's the word up there on Malik Renault? It's like, what, 32-0?
Yeah. There you go. Indiana fans, Big Ten champs, Big Ten favorites. Well, yeah, they're saying if Trace stays, they should be Big Ten favorites. I'm like, man, you guys are still need a shooter. Someone still has to shoot the ball. Now, I think that door to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Wednesday. We've made the halfway point. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Appreciate them. Rick Bozich on with us now from WDRB.com, Hall of Fame writer. Obviously, the big story for Indiana this week, Rick, is the landing Malik Renault on Monday. We just had the announcement that Kofi Cockburn is leaving, not coming back, waiting to see what Trace Jackson Davis is going to do next. And Indiana is in position to take a jump up in a lot of ways in the Big Ten nationally. But I still think that they're missing one piece, and that is a shooting, just a pure shooter, which they're still talking to Sean McNeil, but they don't have room for another guy right now.
Right.
There's the rub.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, if Cockburn leaves and that follows, Jaden Ivey and Keegan Murray and Johnny Davis, and, that does bring the rest of the Big Ten. Michigan, I think, will still be fairly good. Dickinson hadn't decided yet, and Caleb Houston, but I think Michigan projects to be a very talented team for next season because I think they also have a top 10 or 10-ish recruiting class. And it's hard to really get a feel for any team because of the transfer portal. We don't even know we're not even close to know what the rosters are going to be. But if Trace Jackson Davis comes back with what they have, I think Indiana has to be a preseason top 20 team. I've seen them as high as a top 15 team. And they should be a top 3 or 4 team in the Big Ten. And that's the baseline of where you want to be every season.
Absolutely. And the one thing that they will add, more depth for sure. They've already added depth with Malik Renault. But the one thing that I keep saying that they need and have not shown is that shooter, the guy that will knock down shots, that will hit a shot when you absolutely need it, that you can consistently count on to not necessarily score 20 points, but 12, or he's going to hit some shots when you need them. And they haven't had that, especially from the wing position. And maybe from that 2 spot as well. I'm not sure if Jalen Hutchifino will be a better scorer from that spot. But that's why the Dexter Dennis thing, I'm like, I know that defense is important, but Indiana was pretty good shape defensively last year. I think they need more offensive help than defensive. So Sean McNeil just seems to be a more desirable get than, say, Dexter Dennis.
Yeah, I generally agree with you. I think what the problem they had last year, and we talked about it all season, is the guys playing the 2 or 3 had skill sets that were too similar. They were shooters who didn't always make shots. They weren't aggressive in getting their shots, and they were catch and shoot guys. They were not guys that were going to create their own shot. And so the defense, I think that made it the defense is easier to scheme for Indiana. You need to have one guy on the perimeter who defenses have to fear. Fear not only because they can shoot, but they can also attack off the dribble. They can also create their own shot. You know, Stewart and Kopp were guys, if you ran a play and got them open, they could get a shot off. And they weren't even, especially Stewart, I think sometimes he wasn't real quick getting a shot off. And he had to be wide open before he even got it off. So I agree with you. They need a guy. If you watch the way the game was played in the later rounds of the NCAA tournament, the teams that were really good had guys on the perimeter who you always had to fear when they had the ball. Like, what is this guy going to do next? And, you know, Xavier Johnson can do some of those things. He makes a decent percentage of his shots, but, you know, he's not what you'd say, you know, is just a knockdown shooter. But he is a really good ball handler and attacker and things like that. So you put a guy out there who can do some of those things, and that'll take the offense up a notch. Because as much as all the talk about IU, the offense last year got worse in terms of offensive efficiency than it was under Archie Miller. So that's where the improvement needs to come.
And I look at someone like Jordan Geronimo. We talk about Trace Jackson Davis needing to add a shot. Jordan Geronimo has to add the ability to create his own shot off the dribble, right? Because he's a person that sounds like that's the exact kind of person you're talking about. Yeah. He's out there in that 3-4 tweener kind of a deal, and he's got to be able to create his own shot, but he's had problems because he's not a very good ball handler.
Yeah, I mean, he's got 3 things he has to work on. One, he has to make his shot better and more fluid. He's got decent form, but like when he gets rushed or somebody's defended him, you know, you still see, in my opinion, too many air balls. And secondly, he does need to improve his ball handling. So when he gets the ball, he feels like he can create something and get himself to the rim. And thirdly, he needs to become a better passer. I mean, you got to have guys in that 2-3 spot who can pass some and feed to your bigs down by the rim. If you draw the double team, you can throw the alley-oop to the guy and get a dunk. So those are 3 areas that Geronimo, he seems to have the athletic ability. They should be able to do it, but he looks like a guy to me that, I don't know, he just didn't play enough basketball or needs to play more basketball, or sort of a late developing player. So I think he can be a guy that does that, but it depends how much time he spends in the lab this summer.
Malik Renault is known as a great passer, but he's going to be one of those bigs. How do you see, if Trace Jackson Davis comes back, how do you see using Trace, Race, and Malik?
I think it'll have to be 3 guys sharing 2 spots, basically. That I would assume you'd come back with Thompson and Davis again, you know, in the same tandem they played, and Renault comes in and subs for one, and then if he went in first for Race comes out, and then when Race comes in, Trace goes out, and then when Trace comes back in, that Renault goes out. So I think he would play more minutes than Michael Durr played, obviously play more minutes than Logan Duncan played. From what I've seen of him and what I've read about him, everybody says he's a really good scorer down on the low block, even against taller players, because he has tremendous footwork. He knows how to, you know, work angles. He knows how to get to his strong side, which is his left side. But he's not really a big above the rim player like Trace Jackson Davis is.
Yeah, not much of a shot blocker.
That'll be the adjustment for him going against taller, bigger, stronger guys night after night after night.
Yeah, and I think that he's trying to work on a perimeter game. He does not really have that right now, but he's working on it, and that would make him a very dangerous addition as well. If things stay the same, that's what we just talked about. Now, if Trace Jackson Davis were to leave, then that makes things a little easier as far as knowing what Indiana would have, because obviously you would have him step into that spot, and Indiana would obviously sign one of these guards. And let's say it's for just Sean McNeil. What shape do you think this team would be in if it was Trace was gone? You've got Malik in that spot, but you're bringing in a Sean McNeil in addition to what they have coming in.
Yeah, I mean, I think Davis, I know some people like to criticize him for whatever reasons, but to me, I think he was critical to Indiana's defensive success last year. He had a ton of block shots.
Lots.
And I think he was good enough at it, and the word got out that he discouraged people from attacking the rim against IU. And when they played their best ball at the end of the year, it's because he really got rolling offensively and was putting up, big numbers, 25 to 29 points, whatever it was in some of those Big Ten tournament games. So if they lose him, I mean, they don't have a guy. They're going to have to change the way they play, and they're going to have to make up his points at two or three different other positions.
I guess if I could jump in here, I just have a quick question for Rick that I've been kind of thinking through. If Trace does come back, where do you see Jordan Geronimo fitting in? Because obviously he can play the three, but we've seen him struggle a little bit guarding the three. He's more comfortable guarding 4s and 5s. Where do you think he fits in if Trace does come back?
Yeah, it's going to depend on how much he improves, in my opinion. I mean, I'd say he'd have to play more 3 than 4, but he'd be available as a backup 4 in games when we all know that there's injuries. We all know that there's sickness. We all know that there's foul trouble. That would be sort of his role. And I don't know if it's true or not. I read a bunch of stuff that's saying that he hadn't announced yet that he's coming back, but I mean, used to be nobody had to announce coming back, that you just assumed it. But these days it's almost like a guy has to make a decision every year. So I don't know. I don't see him if Race and Trace Jackson Davis come back, the only place he could start is the 3. And that lineup is a little I'm not sure how well that lineup would work, because you got 3 guys excuse me, who really aren't shooters. And I think you need to have one in one of those positions who can make shots.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the NBA draft.net right now. They've got Trace at 33 now.
Who does?
NBA draft.net in their mock draft going to Toronto.
Yeah, that's a big websites, but I'd be more inclined to see what Giovanni at ESPN has, or what Sam Vecini has at The Athletic. To me, those guys are on it a little bit more, but he's going to be in the borderline area. And like I said last week, what it's going to come down to is whether, when he works out, there's 1 or 2 teams that say, you know what, we think he's a good second-round guy. We think he's a good two-way contract guy, and we're going to tell him if he stays in the draft, we're going to take him. And if he gets that kind of a deal, then I could see him going. If he doesn't, if he's not feeling the love really from anybody, then I see him coming back. So it's going to depend on, what NBA teams think of him in these workouts, and even in Chicago at the pre-draft combine.
I mean, his is really going to be a close decision. I mean, a lot of times they're not, but this one really is getting closer. I mean, before the end of the season, I don't think it was a decision at all, but he was able to close that gap by playing a lot better, and Indiana had a nice little run, which helped him. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, Indiana fans are hanging on the edge of their seat, waiting to see what type of team they're going to have next year.
Yeah, and there's so many other factors involved that there didn't used to be. NIL money is in Indiana's favor. He does seem to be a guy who has enjoyed the college basketball process and likes being part of a college basketball team. And he seems to be a guy who it's meant something to sort of be a guy that helps get Indiana back on the national stage. And I think he's aware of who else is coming back and what they've added and how good they can be. And it all depends how much that factors into, one more year of playing at IU versus 1 year of playing a good percentage of your season riding buses in the G League and playing in some, 4,000 or 5,000 seat arenas. I mean, how many more years this is a once in a lifetime thing for him to go out at IU the way he could possibly go out.
Yeah, and there's like someone said that they think that Kopp leaves, and I'm like, yeah, I don't see that happening. He's going to stay and get his degree no matter what, even if he doesn't play a minute. I just don't see him leaving, but he will
if Jackson
play.
Davis comes back, they can't add Dennis or McNeil unless somebody else goes, correct?
Somebody's got to move, yeah. Now, there's a possibility of, say, and I'm just suggesting this, someone like Anthony Leal moving to a walk-on position for a year, but maybe his NIL is increased. There are ways to do this now, probably. So, not that I want
former Mr. Basketball. Do you really want to assume the mantle of 14th man on the team, though?
No, you don't. But you're. I don't know. The way they're recruiting now and the talent that's coming in, is there ever going to be a position for him, for Logan Duncombe? As well, those guys that are there, and then last year we didn't really see any. Well, it was just Duncombe's first season, but Leal's second season, and he didn't really. He had a couple opportunities and didn't really take advantage of them. So it makes you wonder after 2 seasons with guys coming in, man, is you going to get pushed down? Keep getting pushed down.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you're standing on the runway and you see everybody that's landing in the airport is another guard, and they're coming in. CJ Gunn is playing his position, and Leal, he's gotten opportunities, and when you watch him play, he hasn't projected that he believes that he's an Indiana University starting guard. When he gets in, he doesn't look at the rim enough to shoot. He's not aggressive. He plays. He plays sort of like not to make mistakes. I'm going to defend. I'm not going to turn the ball over, but I'm not going to force.
He plays like a Bob Knight role player.
Yeah, like a Luke Jimenez or something, to date myself, of a guy, who's I'm in there just to make sure the offense runs, and I'm going to get the ball to the shooters. But the defense doesn't have to worry about him because he's not going to look to take a shot. He's one of those guys, when you watch him play, people are yelling, shoot. And it's like, you're not a former walk-on, you're former Mr. Basketball. Duncan's in a different situation. We didn't see Duncan play much last year. And, big men develop a little bit slower than guards, and there aren't as many of them. So I don't really know what to think of Duncan. But, Leal, it's just, he's going to have it. It's survival of the fittest. If he wants to play, he's going to have to be more aggressive and say, I'm good enough to be playing. And in 2 years, we haven't seen that from him. That's what I think. Do you agree or disagree?
Absolutely, Dylan.
Yeah, I guess my thing is that the biggest thing with Leo is, we saw his freshman year where he hit those, I think it was 4 threes against Wisconsin. It was like, okay, maybe he can carve out a role on this team as the one guy who can shoot the ball coming off the bench, is like an instant offense thing, but that didn't even materialize this year because he wasn't a great shooter even when he did have opportunities. When he did shoot the ball, he wasn't great at it. And I think to be that kind of role player off the bench as a shooter, you need to be a great shooter. And so I think you're right. He's an impactful defensive player. When he does come on the floor, he has the athletic chops to play defense in the Big Ten. But you're right. He isn't super aggressive on offense. And I think that's going to be the next step for him, if there is a next step.
Yeah, the game that really made an impression on me was the Northwestern game.
Yes, I was getting ready to say that. The 2 free throws that he missed.
7 dudes or whatever at the most, and he got time, and it's like, you're playing Northwestern. You're not playing this. That wasn't like Michigan or Purdue or something. It's Northwestern. You've got to make an impact on that game. You got to make people know that you're out there, and he didn't do it.
And was that the game that at the end of the first half, he was at the line for 2 free throws and missed both of them?
I don't. You might be right. I remember there was a game.
It just stands out. That stands out, and I'm like, wow, your supposed best shooter just missed 2 critical free throws. And I think it's at the end of a half, which was critical for Indiana because, as we know, they all suffered at the end of halves and opening of halves. And that was part of it. And that's what stood out. I'm like, man, there you go. You not only you have an opportunity to knock down shots, critical shots, because those 2 free throws were important at the time. So yeah, CJ Gunn coming in. I guarantee you he's going to be fighting for minutes because he knows what he's fighting against. I've seen him play as well. I've seen him be a big-time fourth quarter guy, score a lot of points in the fourth quarter, put a lot of 3-point shots up, but I keep talking about it. Whether or not that translates to college, we'll have to wait and see. But I guarantee you he's going to be working at it because he knows what he's up against. This is not your grandfather's type of deal now. It's the survival of the fittest.
Yeah. And the other guy I think we need to mention is Bates.
Yes.
Bates
Yes.
play either 2 or 3. I'm not sure which one it is. He's sort of the opposite of the of Leal. I mean, he'll shoot whenever he wants to shoot. He just needs to learn to do other things. I mean, he's a guy he needs to learn how to set other teammates up. He needs to learn to tighten up his ball handling skills. He needs to learn, to be more committed to defense. He was a very highly ranked recruit. He had a pretty uneven season. He had a few good games, but he showed enough potential that I think he could be an impactful player at either the 2 or 3 spot wherever they decide to use him.
Yeah, I'm starting to wonder about Duncombe as well. He was recruited by Archie, very, very different. This is not the offense that Mike Whitson's going to try to run. And I think with these recruits, we're starting to see more about what he's trying to get to. The more athletic, the athletic wings and those guys. So there, Logan Duncombe, he's not from Indiana. On top of that, he's a guy that I could see at some point going, but that would have happened by now if it was going to happen this year.
Yeah, you'd think so. Although every day we see another dude go in the portal. I forget, yesterday I saw somebody went in like for the second year in a row who's going to have to get a waiver. I forgot who it was.
I did the numbers.
Dawson Garcia is one of them who's gone in. Remember Indiana really wanted him, and then he went to Marquette.
Oh,
and then
yeah.
He went to Carolina. Now he's going back to Minnesota. There's a guy by the name of Landers Nolly who started at Virginia Tech, and he went to Memphis, and now he's going somewhere else. Louisville's got 2 guys, Noah Locke and Matt Cross, who came in from Florida and Miami. They're already heading out for a second, connecting flight. So, it can happen any day, man.
3.7 players per team, Dylan, are in the transfer portal of Division I.
IU fits right in there. They have 4.
Yeah, that number seems low, man. Well, how about down here at Louisville? I mean, there's a kid, this is football now. They had a kid named Tyler Harrell who didn't play a whole bunch like his first 3 years, and he played last year quite a bit and got better, fastest guy on the team. And then he goes through spring practice and he has a good spring ball. And then, after spring practice is over, I'm leaving now. He went through spring practice. So it's like, I don't see how coaches realistically do it. I mean, because once you're into, mid-April, it's kind of hard to find a starting receiver somewhere else.
Yeah, football would suck to deal with that because you've got 125 guys versus 13. A huge difference for basketball. What's up next for you, Rick?
Oh, I'm thinking about going up to Indianapolis this weekend. I think the EYBL is going to be up there.
Yeah, I will be up there as well. Yes, sir.
At the Pacers Athletic Facility, and it's in
it's going on there, and there is also an event up at the Finch Creek facility.
This place I looked at is in Westfield, I guess. So that's
probably the Pacers,
north of Carmel.
Yes, you're north of Carmel, and then the Finch Creek is out in Fishers, which is just on the northeast side of Indianapolis. Great facility up there where the Adidas Gauntlet went on last week or the week before that, whenever that was. But yeah, 2 events going on this weekend. I will be at one of them, either Finch Creek or the Pacers Center.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go up to that. I think there's a team from New Jersey called the New Jersey Scholars. That Purvis Ellison, the former Louisville Star, is in charge of the program, and DJ Wagner, who is the subject of all fascination in this town because Kentucky fans are convinced he's going to Kentucky, and Louisville fans are convinced now that Kenny Payne is here, he's going to Louisville. So
Milt's son, is that Milt's son?
It's Milt's grandson. He was the leading scorer the first weekend. He's the number 1 ranked junior in the country, and he's the leading scorer the first weekend of the NYBL down in Orlando, Florida. So I'm going to go up.
Milt's grandson. Didn't Milt Wagner play on the Louisville's 1980 national championship team?
1986 national championship team.
1986. He makes it worse. He was on the 86 team, and he's got a grandson that's being recruited. Gee whiz.
Well, his son was
Man.
Dwan Wagner, who was,
I know. Man, I keep it's crazy.
The beat goes on, man.
It does, and that's what
coming down. You better get better. You get run over.
The circles, man. I'm losing track of the circles. Louisville always had that great pipeline to New Jersey up there. They had a lot of guys from there, didn't they?
Yeah, they had Billy Thompson and Milt Wagner and Kevin Walls and a couple of other guys. They had the Camden connection for the '86 championship team for sure.
You're not going to go up to Little Five?
I don't think so. What's going on at Little Five that would be a sports-related story?
Nothing. Absolutely. One exception, Sean McNeil is visiting.
Okay.
During Little
I
Five.
got to ask you guys one question. I was reading this year in Indiana football, like there was no media availability. People got to see nothing.
No spring game either.
Is that because they have all these new players? They don't want anybody to see anything, or they're afraid?
My guess is because they created such a buzz last year and dropped the biggest egg in the history of college football that they don't want any expectations at all this season. My guess.
Now they had media availability. Just to clarify, they did have media availability.
But you didn't
he meant watching. He's not talking about Zoom.
Oh, you mean in person,
interviews.
like during the games? I got you.
And I don't think they've decided on a quarterback yet, Rick. I don't think that they know whether or not it's Jack Tuttle or Barzilak, the Missouri transfer. I truly don't know that decision has been made yet. They're trying to keep it under wraps.
Well, somebody else speculated that this is also a new trend that teams don't want video out because other coaching staffs watch the video, and then if they see players, then that's one way for them to entice them to get in the portal.
Well, I guess it's a possibility, but I hadn't thought about that. I would think that they have enough recruiting things to deal with besides adding that to it.
I don't know. I didn't realize it was like no availability of any kind. I heard they did let like family members into the spring game, but no. Yes.
Video
of it at all.
Yep. I
did and they gave us Zoom availability. Just know, like you couldn't see any of the practices.
Did anybody ask Alan why that's what they did this year?
No, but I will next time we have Zoom.
Okay.
I promise.
Interesting.
Now that it's over, it's I've never seen anything like it. It has been quite the game of mum.
I saw they popped up on a list that you don't want to be on, which was top 10 hardest schedules in the country. I think they were
it's brutal
on Big Ten teams.
It's brutal. I mean, they've got to go to Cincinnati this year, and then you add the Big Ten schedule on top of that. So. You've got a road non-conference game, a tough road non-conference game, and you add the Big Ten schedule, which it's a tough Big Ten schedule on top of that.
At least this year, though, they have 5 home games and 4 road games like in the Big Ten. Isn't that right?
I believe so.
Pretty sure it is.
I don't think the fans are looking forward to it. Yeah, Illinois they open the season with Illinois. Another Big Ten opening game. And that's another thing. And that's another thing. And they have to open the season again of the conference game against a team that is definitely trying their hardest to raise their own tide.
Right. Yeah, but you can't complain about playing Illinois at home. It doesn't. Who's worse in the Big Ten?
Maybe Northwestern
last year.
That's about it.
Very few. Nebraska's on the come, as Kevin Brockway would say. They're. Did you see their spring game was decided by a single possession?
No.
I thought they have like 9 games decided by a possession last year.
Oh, wow.
And I think it was like 9 of their games were decided by a single possession last year. And of course, their spring game was as well this year. Man, Derby's around the corner. Can't wait. Next week, we'll talk about that some. Looking forward to it. We're getting closer and closer. What is that, like 2-3 weeks away?
2 weeks from Saturday. Don't come down Saturday night. Thunder over Louisville. You won't be able to get through downtown Louisville.
Wow, it's only 1 week in front of the Derby. Normally it's 2.
No, it's 2 weeks.
No,
Derby
2 weeks from
2 weeks from Saturday.
Oh, and this Saturday is Thunder. Gotcha.
This Saturday's Thunder. The following Saturday's the mini marathon, and then the next week's the Derby. So First under over Louisville since 2019.
You running in the mini marathon?
I have. I've done 4 of them, but I'm not anymore.
Have you really?
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. I can't. Yeah, that's. Hey man, I couldn't do it. I'm telling you, that's 13 miles. Nope. I don't even want to walk 13 miles, much less run. I was never a long distance guy. I was a sprinter. I tore
my Achilles, so those days are over. I could probably walk 13, but
hey, I'm impressed. Well, Rick, I know you got to get going, brother, so we'll let you get to it. I hope you have a great rest of your week and a great weekend.
Maybe I'll see you up in Indianapolis. Let me know if you're up there.
I will do so. Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. Make sure you give him a follow and keep up on all the great content that he puts out. We've got more coming up. Dylan Sinn is with me from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. We're back to talk more here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Bubba's 33 down in Clarksville when you're in the area, right off of I-65. Back right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting Bloomington. Oh, Rick is great.
Yeah,
he is.
Yes, 0 expectations. That is what you should have. I don't see them. If they get to a bowl game, that is exceptionally successful to me this season.
Yeah. It just kind of seems like it's coming off the rails a little bit, which is kind of sad after how well 2020 went and how much it looked like last year was going to be another good season. Although I did think heading into the season, the expectations are probably too high. But
no, they weren't. I disagree. I think that they had the pieces, but there were Nick Sheridan was a major part of the problem. I said it when he was hired, and I never backed away from that. And it was just unbelievable. I've never seen such a drop-off, such a loss of talent. And to me, that's just the difference between Kalen DeBoer working with Michael Penix and then Nick Sheridan instead.
I guess we'll get to see. We'll get to see
in Washington.
Yeah, we'll get to see the difference this year. I was just about to say that.
Well, it's going to be more of a no huddle tempo, which I kept asking last year why they weren't doing that, because anything to get an advantage when you are disadvantaged, like Indiana was hamstrung with whatever it was, play calling, whatever. Why they weren't going to no huddle tempo? Just didn't do it, and I did not get that. They will this year.
It's because I would guess that they didn't have enough good offensive linemen to really make it work. Because you're going to need to hustle guys in and out while you're doing that. They didn't even have 5 good offensive linemen.
Yeah, but you also as poorly as they block though, I'm thinking, hey, if I'm going to be back here, anything to keep me back here less time. A 2-second or 3-second play is much better than a 5-second play with this line.
That's true.
So if you can get back here, it's like boom, boom, bam, boom, boom, bam. With that line, it's what it has to be. You can't rely on that line to give you full protection.
Yeah, that's true. And yeah, that was the root of the issue last year. Was the offensive line was just simply not good enough to compete in the Big Ten. It just wasn't. And I don't know. I don't think that's changed. They didn't really bring anyone in of note. So
their problems were offensive, and it was greatly on the offensive line.
Yeah.
What changes were made there?
Yeah, that's
none at coach. And
we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Wednesday. Hey, don't forget down at the Courtyard, Sports Grill. Well, they're actually sponsoring the Crawfest. It's coming up May 13th and 14th, which will be 3 weeks from this Saturday, down in Bedford. Of course, it's sponsored by Courtroom Sports Bar and Grill. Like I said, you can get it's going to have music. This is 2 days event that's going on, and I'm looking forward to it. Have you been to a crawfest craw boil, Dylan?
I have not. That is not something I've ever done. It sounds like it'd be a blast, though.
Absolutely. The food I'm looking forward to. It's an all you can eat food, beer gardens from Metalworks Brewery. It's an incredible day. Prices for the kids. It's a family entertainment. It's just tons of fun. And of course, Clayton Anderson, well-known country artist, is going to be the music on Saturday. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to heading down there. That's only 3 weeks. Lots of fun stuff coming up, man.
There you go.
So fun stuff to do. We've got the Jordan Holes golf event. That's later on in June. Are you a golfer?
I am. Yes, sir. I played in high school. Not well, but I played.
Oh, that's right. I will have to send this to you then.
Right.
For that. That'll be fun. It's going to be here at Eagle Point. And for those of you that are listening, if you want to play, well, go ahead and put it back up, John. We'll post this on thehoosier.com so you can find it there. I'll post it on my social media. And John, if you can go ahead and put it back up real quick, the flyer for Never Lose Hoop. There's a sign in right now. You can go sign up for teams at the Eventbrite link that's on there. John, are you with me?
I'm here. Yeah. Sorry. I was taking care of something. What's going on?
I was asking for you to put up the Never Lose Hoop flyer.
Yes. Here we go.
This is the Jordan Holes golf outing. This is June 23rd. This benefits kids with cancer in the area, but you can go to that link that's on there and we will publicize that even more on my social media. You can find that at thehoosier.com. I will send it to Dylan. Make sure everybody gets to have it. But the event, not only can you sign up there, though, if you can't play and you would like to donate, you can actually go to that same link, and it's the eventbrite.com link. Never Lose Hoop. You can see it's www.eventbrite.com/e/never. Well, that's too much to say, but anyway, you can see it. We'll put it up on our site, but you can donate as well. And I'm trying to set something up to where for certain levels of donations, like if you donate $100 or more, you get a phone call from one of the VIPs. Or if you sponsor a hole for $100, you will get them to take their picture next to your sign with your name on it and send it to you. Just trying to think of some fun things, trying to raise money. Everything goes to Never Lose Hoop, 100% of the proceeds. So if you can play, great. Get a team. You can also do the VIP, pay an extra bucks and have a VIP member added to your team that will an IU VIP that we'll select and add there for you. So great stuff coming up, man. Lots of fun stuff, whether it's the Crawfest down in Bedford, sponsored by Courtroom Sports Bar and Grill, or this golf event. A lot of stuff going on this summer, Dylan. We're waiting to get there. Derby's coming. The Indianapolis 500's coming. We've got all these AAU events that we're talking about that Rick's going to go up to Indianapolis. You've got Fort Wayne hosts. They've already had one, and they've got another one coming up. What's it called? The Memorial?
The Bill Hensley Memorial Run and Slam. That's every May, usually the third week of May, right around Memorial Day, or maybe a little bit earlier. Last year was the beginning of May. But yeah, there's usually a lot of really good talent at at that tournament. So we always look forward to that in Fort Wayne as well.
What's coming up next for you?
For me this week, I will be on Saturday. I will be at the Notre Dame spring game because Notre Dame is actually having a public spring game. Yeah. So they're having one. I will be there on Saturday. That'll be fun. And then coming up after that is mostly just tin caps. I'm rolling with tin cap stuff going forward. I have a piece coming out tomorrow for those who want to read it on Ali, who's transferring from Akron to Butler. He was the first transfer that Thad Matta brought in at Butler, one of the kind of breakout stars of the MAC this season, and led Akron to the NCAA tournament where they almost upset UCLA in the first round. So that should be a fun story. I talked to Ali. He's great kid, and I have that piece out tomorrow, so I'm excited about that.
30. Well, I cannot thank you enough. Appreciate you, Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. Make sure you give him a follow. Also, big thanks to Rick Bozich, Hall of Fame writer from WDRB.com. Make sure you follow him as well. And Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star. Another great day. Thanks to John, the producer. Most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you, there is no reason for us to be here, and we know that and appreciate you more than you know. Go out and have yourselves a great day. Enjoy it. We appreciate you. And until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana